So when it comes to the category of, let's say, enzymes, they're classified into a number of different areas. Enzymes are classified as plant-based enzymes, animal-based enzymes, systemic enzymes, and cultured enzymes. So animal-based enzymes have the least amount of effectiveness and variability because they only work within a narrow pH range. Plant-based enzymes are oftentimes they have a bigger range, but they may not be as potent as some animal-based enzymes, depending on the type of enzymes that are present. So, if you were to compare, say, Wobe enzyme versus, bromelain and papain that you'd find in a low-grade enzyme. Okay, so Wobe enzyme might be very good for certain things, and
Hmm.
the plant-based might be good for, fruit and things like that. All right. What's a systemic enzyme? A systemic enzyme is an enzyme that you would take not with food. So a great example would be nattokinase. A lot of people are using
Hmm.
that to deal with cardiovascular conditions or buildup of plaque inside the blood. I think it's a great product for that. Or
It's being it's,
serrapeptase
it's
for
being
scarring.
sorry,
Yeah,
nattokinase is also being suggested for dealing with spike proteins.
that's right. That's right. And then you got things like serrapeptase for scarring and things like that. So there are specific enzymes that are designed systemically, which have nothing to do with digestion. And then there's cultured enzymes. Now, a cultured enzyme is an enzyme that is grown on specific mediums in certain conditions that enhance and amplify the efficacy of them, oftentimes 100 to 1,000 times um, more effective than the same amount of enzyme. And they have all these different regulatory aspects like HUTs, for example, on proteases. And it's a little obscure how they evaluate enzymes, the science of it. But and then you would use for best results cultured enzymes. I have found, or we have found in our lab studies, that you can use cultured enzymes not only for digestion. They usually have a pH effectiveness from 2 to 12. They're hundreds, if not thousands of times more powerful than regular enzymes and can be used as a systemic enzyme for effectiveness as well. Like proteolytic activity, particularly, is one that you want to look for because that's what gets us mostly in trouble inside of the bloodstream, undigested protein floating around in the blood. And if you look at a microscopy or you look at inflammatory response and things like that, or, some of the more novel things that are going along due to the remedies that have been promoted by corrupt authorities in the last few years. So we went straight to cultured enzymes. We recognized that as a company, we were going to go to the cultured enzyme side. And I think one of the reasons we've been around for so long is because we do create the most effective cultured enzymes. And I can actually make that statement um, with 100% accuracy because we have a microbiome lab, a bioengineering department at the university, Birch University in Bosnia. We've got dozens and dozens of PhDs and master students who run tests on every single enzyme company out there, and hands down, we're crushing all of them by factors of at least 6x. And so
And how do you measure that?
Well, there's the kind of the state of the art methodology is a thing called infogest. They essentially build a new a stomach. They replicate the conditions of the stomach and then they take out and evaluate the role of the digestibility of things through that process. And so that's kind of the gold standard, and it's really neat. It's shocking. And on top of that, when you start to combine enzymes with probiotics, it's very interesting, or minerals with probiotics. So the enzymes, I would say, are the first part of the stage. The second or the third part of the stage, hydrochloric acid, if you've got your hydrochloric acid in order, you don't have to worry about it. But as we age, we tend to produce less. So sometimes the hydrochloric acid and uh, betaine hydrochloric acid, you get it from beets or whatever. It's pretty simple. We make a really good one that we put minerals with it. And it's super effective for a lot of people. That's all a lot of people need is like one capsule of HCl if they're having digestive problems. Is fine. That's enough for them. And of course, there's a relation between H. pylori because H. pylori will
Mm.
proliferate if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid. So usually after a course of like 90 days or so, you people oftentimes don't have to use hydrochloric acid anymore once they beat down the H. pylori. Um, but when you're looking at these models of how they what bacteria produce under these situations, the good bacteria and bad bacteria, it's fascinating how when you add enzymes, their digestibility of the bacteria and what they produce changes. If you add certain key minerals to them, they'll produce a different set of antioxidants or different metabolic markers that are unique. And you start to realize, wow, these are very sophisticated organisms that do a broad array of things. And it's a lot of fun to kind of like, I
Mm.
mean, I don't like doing the pipettes and stuff that they all do over there and you do this stuff, but I love looking at the research and seeing
Mm.
it. And then now we have a microscope where you can actually look at these things entering, whether products enter into the cell. So, for example, you could take a like magnesium, for example. Uh, we sell a really good magnesium. We can actually observe the different types of magnesium, how much will be absorbed if you add enzymes to it, if you add, this vitamin or that vitamin as a precursor, if you use these elements, how much actually gets delivered into the cell. And you can start to see this now. So it's really cool. It's
Mm.
like, oh, that's actually working. I can see it right with my own eyes. Does this work? Does this not work? So we're continually doing experiments on that. And we're one of the only companies that actually does it. Most people take scientific research, double blind study, which is interesting, double blind study, right? And then advocate out of that with no ability to check the raws, no ability to see the synergistic effects of their formulations, and no ability to see if it's actually delivering on whatever the marketing promises are. We're the inverse of that. We can see all of that stuff and validate what we put out there, and I think that's what makes our product superior.